So Marcus, let's talk about the application stage. Let's talk about that process. It's not the simplest thing, and I guess it starts off with a cover letter. What are your thoughts? Should we be doing cover letters? If we do, what should they include?
I think if you're sending an email directly to a recruiter, then you can just add some information into the email about yourself and why you're applying for the job and why you like the company. I don't think you really need to add an additional document to your CV that you're sending across. Most applications, I would imagine, go through either recruiters or they go through to an applicant tracking system, which is when you go onto a job board, you then start filling out questions, which then go onto a system, which is an online system, which recruiters, employers house everybody's details for any jobs that you're applying for. So you wouldn't need a cover letter for those jobs. But if you're applying directly, I'd probably just write a few lines in an email rather than actually attaching a cover letter.
And what sort of thing do you need to cover in that kind of that email that would in fact just be the cover letter, wouldn't it really?
Yeah, I think you just cover that you do such a job, how long you possibly been doing it for, you've seen such and such job somewhere, you would be interested in this job because of blah, 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 blah. And let them know when you're available possibly, or you would like to get some time to discuss the opportunity if that's possible.
So nice and simple again.
Yep.
A nice positive kind of air to it. You know, nothing that kind of says I'm moving away from a job, but actually I want to move towards this job. This is part of my future, and it's something I would love to do. Yeah. So again, you're sending a nice strong message there.
Again, it's easy, simple to read, and you're getting your point across straight away without going into too much detail.
Well, and again, I guess that's the challenge, isn't it? Really, you know, we kind of you start writing and you think, oh, I'll tell them this, or I'll drop that in there, and I want them to know that, and you get this kind of feeling of I want to just draw them in. So, and I've done this in the past myself, where I've overloaded it, and actually maybe all I've done is actually just put them off, where they've just stopped reading after the first paragraph.
Yeah, less is more, as they say.
It is. So one paragraph, no mucking around. Straight to the point. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing, and this is why I want to come and talk to you about this particular role.
Yeah.
Boom. Now, what do we have to do to prepare for a video interview?
I think first of all, you need to be in a space where you can totally focus on the person that you're going to be talking to. I think you obviously need to. I mean, there's things you can do before that actually, because you need to obviously make sure that you've got good Wi-Fi internet connection, or if you're using a mobile phone to do it, that you've got a good connection there through your service provider. You need to find a space which is nice and quiet, and make sure that you've told people that if you are going to be in a room, that you're in there and please do not disturb me. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately. And when I say appropriately, do put some trousers or skirt on, just in case someone does knock at your door and you have to go and answer it. Otherwise, try and ignore that knock. I think in terms of background, you need to make sure that it's free of clutter, so nice and simple, like ours is at the moment. So you try and avoid having too much light as well, because they want to be able to see your face, and if you have too much light in, either it becomes very, very bright or it becomes very, very dark, depending on which way the light is going. So I think they would be the key things that I'd be looking at to make sure you're prepared, and make sure your computer is charged up or your phone is charged up as well, so you don't have to move it around at any point, and try and keep shoulders upwards.
Perfect. Getting dressed properly. Yes, you've covered that nicely. You know, I think we both look quite sharp and quite nice today. It looks like we both made the effort. Have you ever had a situation where somebody's kind of has stood up and there is a real disconnect between kind of top and bottom?
Not yet. I suppose one thing I have had is somebody holding their mobile phone. Okay, so this is probably another very good point. And they were lying down on a sofa having a conversation like this, lying on their sofa. And I thought, okay, and I addressed it straight away and I got them to sit up, which is absolutely fine. But I think if you're going to do an interview, is to place your mobile phone or place your computer on a desktop or something, so it actually is still, you're not holding it, not moving around. So the focus is completely on each other, rather than it being the interviewer looking at you and thinking, what the hell are you up to? Why aren't you sort of respecting the opportunity of getting a job by lying down the way that you are? That's not appropriate.
So realistically, I mean, it sounds like what you're describing is taking this virtual job interview as seriously as you would do a real face-to-face job interview. Now, if you walked into a job interview, would you like lean back in your chair so you're almost lying down? No, you probably wouldn't, to be fair.
No.
You're not sending a strong message there, are you? So
you're sending the wrong message. You're giving someone an excuse not to hire you,
which is not an ideal situation. So when your person is kind of lying down on the sofa, holding their phone up, kind of looking up, it's really obvious what somebody's doing in that situation. And not everybody's quite like you who's going to be kind of given the chance to actually say, you know what, can you just sit up and put your phone somewhere kind of where we can actually just have a conversation? Because it should just be about the two people on the screen, shouldn't it, really?
Yes, nothing else apart from that.
Exactly. So video interviews, nice clear strategy for that. Good connection, absolutely key. Having a good stand where you're not having to kind of at some point kind of start to feel your arm shaking because you're starting to get tired in a while.
This is how strong I am.
Exactly.
I can hold it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Oh, I'll go for record 40.
Resilience. I've got resilience. I'm demonstrating.
Feel my arms.
So maybe we're in a position now where we've gone through that first video interview and we've kind of they've said, yes, I like you, but now I want to meet you. I want to kind of see you face to face. What sort of interview prep do I need to be doing for that?
I think treat it in exactly the same way as, you're going there to be well presented, you're going there and understand body language and being positive all the time. I think if you're going to go and do an interview anywhere, it's key to do preparation and research and make sure you know your stuff about the business that you're going to, understand the role that you're going to be working in, what is involved in that. And that's not just going on to the company website, looking at their jobs and things like that. There's so much more information out there that you can research into these days, whether that's the likes of Wikipedia or going on to LinkedIn or going on to WhatsApp or Instagram or anything like that. Social media presence, they've got lots and lots of information on there about businesses. So you can really go into a lot of depth about a business, which will impress anybody. If you're not necessarily able to regurgitate information, but show that you're passionate about what they do. And I think that is key.
So being able to kind of to drop some of those things that they've talked about maybe on social, some of those values that they've mentioned on their website, being able to kind of to drop that language into your conversation in a very natural way that, again, doesn't feel like you're just kind of roboting and just kind of throwing it back out at them. It's actually you're reflecting back and you're kind of reflecting back their values to them, which again makes them feel actually, yes, this person is actually built for us.
Exactly. I always remember working at Carlucci's and a few people telling me things that I didn't know about the business. And I can't remember exactly what they were, but I always remember going, oh, I didn't know that. I'm going to go for it. And this is probably when I've been in the business for about a year or two. Obviously, after 6 years, I should know quite a bit about business. But, when someone impresses you that much, they make a very good impression that they knew something about your business that you didn't know. And I love that fact that people have gone to their extent and length to go and find out as much about the business as possible, because it demonstrates they're really taking consideration and care about their next role. And I guess that then stems on to being happy in the next job role, because they want to find a job that is very suitable for themselves. So why not do that research to make sure that you will be happy in the job that you go to next? Perfect.
So as part of that interview prep, what would you do? So one of the questions that's been talked about is how do I create a great online profile in hospitality? And we live our lives digitally now, most of us, we share pretty much everything, if I'm honest with you. How do I go about curating that so that actually it represents me in exactly the right way?
I think with something like LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile should be pretty similar to what you've got on your CV, if not the same. I mean, there's additional things you can add on there to your profile to make it stand out even further. Like you can get recommendations, you can get endorsed. So reach out to people that you've worked with before to actually get those recommendations and endorsements. So it's not just about your career history on there or telling people that you're open to work. It's actually about building a really strong profile that when businesses or employers, recruiters look at your profile, they can see a bit more detail about yourself on LinkedIn. I think when you touch on things like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, you know, they're a bit more personal. So would you want to build those up? I don't think you probably would do. I'd probably actually make them private as much as you possibly can, because, you know, there may be pictures of people that could be, well, you could get discriminated against in some way because you have pictures on there which aren't appropriate, or you've possibly been drinking or doing alcohol or drugs or something like that. And you don't necessarily want pictures from your past being seen by employers. And probably about 50% of employers would probably turn around and look at social media. I mean, there's nothing against the law for them to do that. But I guess there's about 50% that would actually turn and think, do we want that kind of person based on the information that they have on Facebook or not LinkedIn profile, but Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. So it can affect your application potentially. So making sure you've got your settings in the right way, definitely have a look at that. But build up your LinkedIn profile, because that's probably where they're going to go to look at your profile.
So the key is not necessarily to sanitize your social media presence, but to just be clear and be comfortable about who is going to see what, when, and where. So you're right, kind of using those privacy settings effectively, particularly if you are in a job search.
I think as well, if you're someone that's very active on social media, is to really understand and potentially not be so controversial with the stuff that you're putting on. I'm not saying to totally agree with everything that you're doing either, to agree with everything that's out there, but just be careful about what you're writing, because some people may take offense to what you're potentially writing. It might not necessarily fit with their kind of culture and values. So, you know, someone like myself that does post quite a bit, I'm quite conscious of the stuff that I'm writing. So sometimes it is dumbed down a little bit. But I think if you're a job seeker and you're writing out stuff, it's just to be careful about what you actually write, because it does link to your profile and people can see what you actually post.
Massively important. Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to social media, obviously you can use it as a tool to get a good understanding of the businesses and the brands that you're looking to apply to. But I think it's really key to understand that they could potentially do the same thing towards you. You know, they could get absolutely. One of those where life is very much a two-way street. Alrighty. So yeah, we've covered a few things now, but let's think about kind of interview questions that people could be facing and different styles of questioning. And one of the big ones out there is competency-based questions. How can you help me understand exactly what a competency-based interview is and a competency-based question would look like?
A competency-based question. I have trouble saying that one. I guess is a question where you're asked to describe a situation where you demonstrate a skill, or giving an example of how you've handled something in the workplace, or how you've made a big decision about something and how it is carried out.
Okay. And in those, when I'm being asked those questions, are we always expected to give kind of positive outcomes, examples that have had positive outcomes?
Not necessarily. I think it's just a demonstration of how you've done something and potentially what the result is. And if it is not a positive outcome, I mean, obviously you'd want to use something as a positive outcome. But if, for example, it didn't necessarily work out, it's about, okay, how was it rectified? How did you then make it a positive outcome? So I suppose it assesses a lot of different skills, and that's what the questions are about.
Okay. So I don't know, let's give the people an example. Throw me a competency-based question, Marcus, and I'll try and answer it. And then you can tell me where I've gone right and wrong.
Okay.
To test me.
I suppose, I mean, the obvious one is, so a customer's walked in and they sat down, they're having dinner, and they've been waiting for 15 minutes for their starter. It hasn't come. They're starting to get a bit agitated because they've asked somebody to find out where the starter is, and they've waited another 5 minutes. So they now ask for the manager to come over. So in that situation, as the manager, how would you have coped and handled the situation? And how would you make the customer then leave happy once they finish the meal?
I mean, first of all, I thought you were going to ask me how I was going to make them leave. Answer for that one, Marcus. How am I going to make them leave happy? That's a tough one, isn't it? So I guess from my perspective, from the shoes of the manager, the first thing I'm going to do is going to apologize to them and let them know that I'm now on that situation and that I'm aware of their unhappiness, and I'm aware of where we've fallen short. But my next step is to go and find out exactly what has gone wrong. So is it an ordering situation? Has somebody, front of house person, made a mistake and not placed the order on time? Is it a kitchen issue? And I'm gonna be really clear with them and honest, and just say that I need to understand where we've fallen short and what's gone wrong. Obviously, before I really start to dig into that, I'm going to make sure the kitchen is actually cooking your meal now, and we're going to get it out to you as quickly as we possibly can do. But I'm going to try and understand what's gone wrong. If I give you that answer in an interview, how would you feel?
Pretty confident that you could do the job, yeah. I mean, one of the areas you haven't necessarily addressed is how you make sure they leave happy. You've obviously just gone to the point where you've just told them, okay, I'm going to go and get your meal. I'm going to find out what the problem is.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm naturally a charming fellow, Marcus. People like me. So 5 minutes in my company and they would always leave happy. I mean, that's just, my ego is a terrible, terrible thing.
But as an interview, you're saying that that's obviously what I would do, but as an interviewer, you wouldn't be demonstrating that to me.
Exactly. So I think that's a really good point. Is actually just, you really want to think about. And probably what I didn't do is I just started talking pretty quickly. I didn't take 30 seconds to actually think about my answer.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't probably take that. You probably take 10 seconds to really think about it. I think 30 seconds would be a bit of a big pause.
I guess it's quite a long time, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I might feel quite uncomfortable if I was waiting there for 30 seconds.
You might make a nice eye contact and lock on that.
Yeah. I know. Loving eyes over the table wherever we are.
Naturally charming, my friend. Naturally charming. But so I didn't take the time to actually kind of think about the answer. I just started to talk, and that's certainly from somebody who has interviewed people over the years. That's probably one of the things that people don't really give themselves the latitude on. I think you know, we all anticipate as recruiters and as interviewers that you're not going to necessarily have an answer immediately, that you might just want to take a few seconds just to gather your thoughts. And actually that's a really smart thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's one key thing to take in here is that when you get asked the question, they're not trying to catch you out, and they want you to give the best possible answer that you can give. They're not necessarily looking for a correct answer. So, you know, you're taking time to think about the question you've been asked. There's nothing wrong with that. Get it, kind of process it in some sort of order. So when you did it, you kind of did it in the order that you just thought of straight away, which wouldn't necessarily be the order that you would actually do it in. And I guess that's the beauty of an interview. It kind of makes you think completely differently to the way that you would normally act. So do take that little bit of time to think about it, and then think about, okay, what's the objective of the question? Okay, not what the first thing that you would think of to do, because that's not the objective. The first thing, the thing is at the end is about the customer leaving happy. So how do you make sure the customer is leaving happy? You're addressing the initial thing, the initial problem, as you can call it, thing, but you're not addressing how you're going to make sure that they're a happy customer and how they actually come back, because you want them to come back, right?
It's always the goal, isn't it?
So you got to think beyond the question, not just what the question is, because they're obviously looking for an answer, and where you develop the question, how you develop the question and the answer.
Yeah.
As a manager, you kind of almost expected to, I guess, think outside the box. I mean, I guess in certain situations where you have waiters or the receptionists and the lower levels in different positions, you won't necessarily be expected to come up with an absolutely perfect answer. But I think as a manager, you probably would be expected to go a little bit beyond the realms of the answer that you gave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being totally brutal.
Brutal's good, Marcus. That's kind of the deal. That's what we have to do, isn't it? We're here to share this useful knowledge. I think you made a really good point there that sometimes it feels like an interview question is designed to catch you out when actually it is just designed to allow you and enable you to show yourself in the best light possible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So taking an opportunity, absolutely key.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. One of the challenges I often find, and certainly as a job seeker myself back in the day, was that thing at the end of the conversation where I would be asked, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
So what should I be looking to cover at that point? Even if I feel actually I've got all the information that I need.
I mean, first of all, I doubt you would have all the information that you need. And there's so many different questions you can ask. But I think the most important ones are to find out more information about what's going to make you happy, why this company is the right company for you to work in. You know, the recruiter may ask you, okay, why do you want to join our company? Okay, what is it about the company that you love so much? And you can reverse those questions back onto the recruiter, saying, why do they join the company? What's their best part of the day? Why do they love working for the company? You know, what are the future plans of the business that you're able to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're really 4 simple questions where you can get a really good insight into one, what the business is like, what the culture is like, whether the values that they've got written on the website are the same values as what he's describing or she's describing. And it will give you a sense of, are they excited when they tell you this information, or is it believable? And obviously you need to make your own impression, not impression, you need to make your own opinion of whether the business is right for you. But those are the kind of key questions I would be asking. So you're interviewing them as well. You've got to remember that. Mm-hmm. So to find out information about what's going to make you happy and what's going to make you feel like you could be there in 1 to 2 years and possibly longer than that, that's your opportunity right there. And don't be afraid to also write down the questions on a bit of paper, because I think a lot of people get into an interview and they kind of get to the end of the interview and it could have been quite traumatic for them, that they go, no, I just want to get out of here. I haven't got any further questions. I really, really do want to go. And they may have done a really, really good interview. The recruiter might not give too much information away about how they're doing. So to have some questions written down on a piece of paper and then get them out, I would not be opposed to that whatsoever, because that just demonstrates to me that they really thought about it, and the questions that they want to ask. It's not a question about remembering the questions, it's about asking the questions.
Well, that's again a really good point there. You're demonstrating that forethought. You're demonstrating that that kind of sense that actually I've given it some real consideration, that this is actually important enough for me to sit and make some notes to ensure that I do cover off all of the points that I want to hit. So again, you're delivering against that kind of recruiter's expectations that you really want to work for this business, you really want to work for this brand, and that's how you're showing it is one simple step.
Definitely. Yeah. And it will demonstrate to the recruiter that you're really thinking about your next career role, where you're going to next, and that it is important to you. And it's kind of the whole recruitment process is about you. It's not necessarily about the recruiter. So, you know, put the focus on you and give them the opportunity to see you demonstrate that it is important to you.
Perfect.
It's not just a job.
No, absolutely.
It's a career.
Yeah, there's far more to it. Right. So the last one I'm going to cover now is it's follow up. If I'm a job seeker and I've been through this process and maybe it's been a few days and I haven't heard anything, should I be getting back in touch with the recruiter, or should I be waiting for them to come back to me?
Normally, a recruiter, if you've been interviewed by them, will tell you that we'll be in touch shortly, or a couple of days, or a week. So just make note of the amount of time that they say they're going to get in touch with you. When you get to that date, whether it's 2 days or whether it's 7 days, and you haven't heard, just leave it a couple more days, and then just drop them a message to say, I really, really enjoyed, or you can even do it straight after, say, I really enjoyed meeting you. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, just out of politeness. And sometimes that can demonstrate that you're very keen to go and work for a company. But I think if you've gone past the date of which or when they are saying that they're going to contact you, just wait a couple of days, then drop them the message or give them a phone call saying, once again, thank you for your time in interviewing me. I know you said you'd be in touch with me within a certain period of time, and we've gone past that now. So is there any decision in terms of my application? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's nice and polite just to let them know that you're still here. Recruiters are very, very busy at the moment, especially. So, you know, they may not necessarily have got round to that bit that they said they were going to do. So a nice gentle reminder, polite, is a good thing to do. And in the end of the day, you want to know where you stand with a job. So if you are waiting for other jobs outcomes, or if you have had an offer already but you're more keen about another offer, there's no harm in doing it.
Absolutely. I think that point of kind of just maybe giving it an extra couple of days on top of what they said to you is absolutely key, because as if you're the person kind of going through the job search, it feels like the most important thing in the world to you right now. And that's the thing that's on the forefront of your mind all the time, is getting through this process and being successful with your job hunt.
Yeah.
It isn't necessarily the same for the recruiter. They've got different priorities. So we have to respect that and show a little bit of empathy for the fact that, you know what, maybe they're interviewing 20, 30 people during this process. So want to give that little bit of empathy and demonstrate that in that kind of in that little nudge and that follow-up. So it's not combative. It's not you said you would do this and you haven't done it, and I just want to
that's not going to do you any favors at all.
Really not. But it's understandable that people do kind of feel that sense of pressure, and then they just kind of just blurt it out there. So be measured, I guess, is what you're telling me, but tailored with your response, with a nice little gentle, it was lovely to meet you. But I just wanted to just follow up. Not a bad thing to do, eh?
No, I don't think it is. And again, it just shows positivity from yourself to the recruiter that you are still keen about the job. They may have made a decision about who they want to hire, but you're just letting them know that you're still about. And if they haven't, and they kind of forgot about you, then you're reminding them again that you're still there. And it's a gentle reminder. It's not in your face.
Perfect. Amazing, mate. That was really good stuff.
Okay.
Thank you very much.